Hey everyone, it's Emily, and for today's haul video, I encountered something that I never have happened to me before. So I will get right to it. I will address the stolen package situation in case that was the reason why you clicked on the video. So long story short, last year I went on a low buy, meaning that I wasn't intending to buy a lot of games, mostly so that I could save up for some financial goals and a big trip I had planned over the summer. And for the most part, my low buy was pretty successful, but towards the tail end of the year, around Black Friday and the holiday sales, I decided to indulge in a few new releases that I was really looking forward to. But unfortunately, it seems that someone decided to steal a few of my packages from my apartment building's mailroom. And I live in a fairly safe and protected apartment complex. You have to have a key to get into the building. So I was not anticipating something like this to happen at all. But apparently by the time the mail person delivered a package, and then when I think came downstairs a few hours later to pick up my packages, they unfortunately were nowhere to be found. At the time, I was really hoping that I just had some neighbor who unfortunately picked up my packages by mistake. And I did contact my management company fairly soon after the incident, I would say a couple days or so, again, just in case it was a neighbor who accidentally picked them up. But unfortunately, it seems that this has been an ongoing thing in my building for some time. So there's either a thief who lives here or someone's able to sneak past our building security and nab some packages. So when I was putting together my last video about the advantages and disadvantages over digital and physical media when it comes to video games, I didn't mention this as a big disadvantage when it comes to physical media. And if you unfortunately encounter porch thieves or mailroom thieves in my case. So what is my big takeaway when it comes to this incident? Well, obviously physical media is not foolproof when it comes to ownership, especially if you have to rely on the mail for you to receive your physical media like I do. And I'm also not mailing anything currently to my apartment complex. So I do have some games on the way, but thankfully I'm able to have them routed to my family members who live in the area, who have presumably safer addresses when it comes to accepting packages. And I also have a P.O. box that I've not made public. It's just for me to receive packages from companies who want to send me things. So I'm going to be using that a lot more often, I think. And I'm also not going to go into detail about which games were exactly stolen, though you probably could guess what they were because they were all mostly JRPGs or big narrative games that saw pretty good discounts during the holiday season that obviously aren't in my haul I'll be sharing today. But I'm hoping that eventually I'll be getting those titles and hope that they're both in stock and at a price that's similar or maybe less than what I had previously paid. So that is the incident and sad story that happened to me last month that hopefully won't happen again. But for now, I'm going to share all the great games and other gaming related items that thankfully did show up safe and sound to me that I could share with you today. So I'm going to start off with a quick unboxing of a game that was sent to me by NS America. That is Phantom Brave and the Lost Hero. And this is the sequel to the Phantom Brave tactical RPG that came out on the PS2 back in the day. So I decided to go with the PS5 version of this, but it's also available on the PS4 and the Switch. So far, I've just gotten to the first two chapters that's in the demo that's currently available. And I've been really enjoying this new spin of a tactical RPG. And it's just so bright and colorful, and I love all the island vibes and the setting it's taken place in. And I do find that all the characters very charming, though a little bit juvenile in the beginning, but you start to really grow attached to them as the story progresses, and you kind of hear what they have to go through and kind of the journey they're going to go on. So when it comes to the collector's edition, we have this nice sturdy box that NAS America tends to put all their collector's edition games in. And inside has the standard edition of the game itself. As you see here, it's the PS5 version. So all these standard edition copies will look like this, and you'll notice that there's some inside cover art, as well as a mini art book inside. And there's also a slip here with a digital code where you can download 8 of the soundtrack songs. And then the rest of these items are all exclusive to the collector's edition. So we have this art book that is really lovely, this lovely green with the gold embossing. And inside there's just a ton of illustrations from the characters to the ships to the weapons, the backgrounds, Just a lot of great art inside here. And what I thought was rather special is we have the full soundtrack included this time. So this is on 2 discs, and there are 34 songs total. So much more than just the 8 songs included inside the standard edition. And I think this is a great way to differentiate this as the collector's edition rather than just having the same kind of repeat songs that we've seen in some of the previous NAS Americas collector's editions. There's also 7 large art cards that have various character portraits, and they're just so vibrant and colorful. And we have one of those sandstorm glitter acrylic art pieces that I think is really cute. And we also have a rather large acrylic standee that also has a bit of a glitter effect. And I appreciate the amount of detail in this acrylic stand than just having separate character acrylic stands. It's more of kind of a scene acrylic stand. So I'd like to thank NAS America again for sending over this collector's edition for me to unbox for you guys. And I have 3 more PS5 games to share. And the rest of these games are all ones that I either purchased through Video Games Plus, PMP Games, or just heavily discounted on Amazon or Best Buy. So the first one I want to share is Star Ocean Second Story R. So this is a remake that I've been really interested in because I've heard when it comes to Star Ocean, the series, the second game is a lot of people's favorites. So I wanted to firsthand check it out. And I also wanted to see how I would take to the art style in particular, where they have the 3D backgrounds and the 2D pixel sprites all on the same plane. In theory, it sounds like a really interesting concept, but I'm not really sure in practice if I would really enjoy it or not. So I figured the PS5 was the way to experience this game and again, see how I would like it. And I do have another Star Ocean game. I have Star Ocean The Divine Force that I got a couple years back. So I'm thinking that I'll try the Second Story R first and then try the more contemporary Star Ocean game that's on my shelves. And I'm really hoping that this sci-fi spin to a JRPG really clicks with me because I do feel like sci-fi and JRPGs are rather limited. And then the next game I have here is Soul Hackers. And this is a title that I've been curious about because I do have the remake of the first game on the 3DS. And I've heard rather mixed things about this sequel for Soul Hackers 2. But this has been heavily discounted for the past year. So I finally bit the bullet and decided to grab this while it was still at that price. Because I've heard from a lot of friends that this game is actually not as bad as some people were trying to make it out to be. So I figured at this price, which I think was around $7, it was worth trying. Now this next game is one that I played before, but I have not played this version. And this is also the first time I'll be owning a copy of this game, and that is the Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut. So I played a good portion of this game on my brother's PS4 a few years ago, so I'm really looking forward to returning to this game and seeing how it works and plays on the PS5, and getting to parts that I don't think I managed to get to. Even though most of the games I'll be sharing here today are mostly JRPGs, I do like action-adventure games as well. So I'm really looking forward to getting this a spin on the PS5 once I carve out some time for it. Now this next game is for a console that I thought I was done collecting for, mostly because of where most of the prices are for the games I had a little bit of interest in, but I really couldn't pass up the price for this particular game when it came up on Video Games Plus, and that is for Etrian Odyssey Nexus. So the funny story is that I actually had this back when they were still making games for the 3DS. I think it was during a transition period for me when I was moving. I decided to sell my copy. That was also the launch edition. And I have since kind of regretted it because I wanted to have all of the Etrian Odyssey games on the 3DS, since I think these games really shine on that particular system. And I wasn't really sure whether or not Atlas was going to revive this particular entry in any way on future platforms. So I feel very fortunate to have this game again, and again for a great price that you really can't find anymore, unfortunately. And I always really love these launch editions from Atlas. I have quite a few behind me back there, so this will go really nicely with the rest of my collection. So the rest of the games I'll be sharing today are all on the Nintendo Switch. Starting with a game that was gifted to me for my birthday / Christmas, and that is Harvestella. So my good friend Brandon, who's my co-host over at the JRPG Pursuit podcast, A little plug for our podcast if you've yet to check out an episode. This is one of his favorite games on the Switch, and I feel like this game's always brought up whenever we are chatting during our podcast episodes. So I've been really enjoying this so far, and I'm excited to potentially make a video about it actually. So stay tuned for maybe more on this game. And next we have yet another JRPG from Square Enix that I've been really curious about, and that is Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. So the Dragon Quest series is very prolific, and I've only played a handful of games myself, mostly just Dragon Quest XI at this point, but I've been looking forward to diving into more Dragon Quest games because it's just so beloved in Japan, and there's so many other JRPGs that are heavily inspired by the Dragon Quest franchise. I was really looking forward to seeing how it plays as a potential Pokemon alternative, since, as many of us know, the Pokemon games have been rather lackluster over the last few years. But I've heard a lot of praise for this particular monster battling type of game, and I do find a lot of the monsters in the Dragon Quest franchise just super charming when it comes to the art style and design. So this game just looks like it'll be a fun time. This next Switch game is another one that's been on my radar for quite some time, and it's published by Fangamer, who is known for having pretty good builds when it comes to their Switch cartridges for those who are interested in that aspect of collecting, and that is for Amori. So this is supposed to be a very emotionally impactful game that can dive into rather deep topics. This is a game that a lot of people recommend going into blind because it does kind of dive into some subjects that are rather unexpected, but kind of play off of the narrative and how it's woven as kind of integral to the story as a whole. So whenever I do get to this game, I will probably have to brace myself a bit, but I'm looking forward to it and kind of just seeing how impactful and enriched the story is that I've heard praised by so many people. Now this next game is one that was threatened to be delisted from all digital storefronts, which I want to say it has been on certain systems, but you could still find the physical copies rather easily still. And that is for the Sega Genesis Classic Collection. And the main reason why I decided to go ahead and purchase this on the Switch is because it has a few different titles that I've been interested in. The Sega systems were never in my household growing up, so I missed out on all those types of games back then. But I've been mostly interested in the JRPGs that are contained on this collection, namely Shining Force 1 and 2, which is one of the first tactical RPGs out there, as well as some of the Phantasy Star games. I believe there's Phantasy Star 2, 3, and 4 contained in this collection. But yeah, I think collections like this are a great alternative to retro game buying, since you could hook these up to modern hardware. You don't have to worry too much about having the CRT and all the right hardware to play older games, and not to mention the prices of those said older games. This is probably how I'll be experiencing many of the older Sega games. Now, last but not least is a game I've been really looking forward to getting a physical copy for, and that is for Pentiment. So this was originally an Xbox exclusive, but then it did come over to other platforms. This is one of the limited print, limited run releases. I have expressed my disdain for that company on this channel before, but I really did want a physical copy for this. So I didn't buy it through limited run directly, but instead went through Video Games Plus, just waiting for it to finally release before I buy it. Thankfully, this didn't sell out quickly at all, so I was able to grab it the rest of my order. But I just find this game so interesting with the art style and how interactive the narrative is. So I'm really looking forward to replaying more of this game because I played a little bit on Steam and I want to now fully experience the game on the Switch. So I'll now quickly go through all of the gaming related merch that I purchased over the last few months or so. Starting with this 4K Ultra HD disc of Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I have the intention of playing Final Fantasy VII Remake sometime in February, probably after Trails Through Daybreak 2, but I wanted to watch this for diving into the remake game. Since I've so far played the OG 7 and the Crisis Core Reunion game, it makes sense, I think, to watch this and then play remake. So this is my first 4K Blu-ray that I purchased, and I don't own too many movies. I own some animated films from Studio Ghibli and a few others. I might start growing that collection a little bit more, because I do like physical media, and there are some movies and maybe TV shows that would be nice to have and own physically, but I'm not probably going to go too wild when it comes to that aspect of physical media and stick mostly to games. So up next, I have some art books that I'm really excited to finally have in my collection. All three of these are for the Trails series, and I've been steadily trying to build up my Trails art book collection. I have most of them. I'm waiting for one at the moment, and then there's a new one for Kai that's coming out soon. So this first one is for the Sky games, as well as the first Crossbell game, which they've translated to Trails of Blue. Since this released before our localized versions of the Crossbell duology released here. So this just has so many pages of wonderful character designs and illustrations, and I really wanted to make sure that I got the English copies for both of these first two books I'll be sharing today, because these are the only art books that were published in English out here in the West for the Trails series. And I really don't know if they will ever see some sort of reprint once the Sky the First Chapter and other remake games come out, because they all have a new art style they'll want to promote. So I imagine those will get art books too down the line. So I'm really happy to have these, and the original Trails art is just so lovely to look through. And I think what's maybe even better than the art book that has Estelle on it is maybe the one with Lloyd and Joshua on it, because this just has just full-on pages of all the illustrations. It's just so great, and I think there's a few different illustrations in here that I had never seen before from scans or anything online, so it was really such a treat to flip through this. And one of the other cool things about these art books is when you put them together, create a picture. So I always thought that was kind of a fun little feature. Now the other Trails book that I got was this one for the first Cold Steel game, and this is rather thin in comparison to the other two books, but you still have so much great content in here, from the character designs, illustrations. It's really interesting to kind of flip through these different art books from all the different games and just see kind of the evolution of how Trails has really transformed over these last 20 years. So I got the first two Trails art books that have the English translations on Amazon US, but this Cold Steel art book, I ended up going with a Japanese website, which there's just so many opportunities for when it comes to JRPG merchandise to order from Japanese websites, either using a proxy service or a store like Surugaya that ships out internationally for free on certain days. So I'm just going to share briefly some merchandise that I picked up for Kaseki or the Trails series through these means. This first one is a cloth poster of the Trails into Reverie art. So I'll have a better image of that here. This is one of my favorite key arts from that game, because it just has all of the protagonists as well as a lot of other just great characters that I love from the Reverie game. I also have another cloth poster here, which I have no idea where I'll be hanging it, because I just have so many cloth posters and no wall space for them. But I couldn't resist this because it had the new key art for the Trails in the Sky game. And this is before they actually revealed the entire long form of this art. So this one just has Estelle and Joshua on it, but they look lovely, and I definitely need to hang this up somewhere. I also have this official postcard set with various key art from the early games. I believe this was a pack-in for, I want to say it was the PSP collection of the first three Sky games, but I was able to get the postcard set separately, and it just has such great art. All these art pieces are available inside of those art books I shared earlier, but it's really nice to have these postcard size just pieces of these art, so I can hang them up wherever I want. And then I also got this postcard, which was a pre-order bonus for the Switch version of the first Daybreak game. Whenever I find Japanese pre-order bonuses for Kaseki, I try to grab it if it's a reasonable price, because they're just kind of fun little things. And I also have this little pouch that I got of Trails of Cold Steel 4. They're not quite chibi, but a few of the stylized characters, along with this Estelle pin. That is another stylized chibi-like version of her. Not Trails related, but I figured I would share. I also have this Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! Keychain. I also ended up buying a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Figures these last few months, but I had all of those displayed in my PC desk tour video. If you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, you could see them all there. And how my obsession of rewatching Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of spiraled. But speaking of figures, I also have a few other figures that I've acquired these last few months. This first one being this Adol figure from Kotobukiya, and this is a 1/7 scale of him in his Ease 8 design. I've also pre-ordered Donna, so I'm going to somehow fit her in this area on my shelf. I'm thinking she might have to go where Adol is currently, and Adol will have to move up. Space is very precious on my shelves, and I will make it work somehow. But I really like his scale figure. I think they did a great job at just how detailed he is with his outfit and his weapon. I like his crouch pose too, which is a little bit more dynamic than if it was just standing there. And he's also really large for a 1/7 scale, I find, especially compared to some of my other 1/7 scales. I also picked up 2 light up Breath of the Wild figures from First 4 Figures. They were heavily discounted on IGN store. And overall, I'm pretty pleased with them, but when I compare the sculpt and shading to my other figures in my collection from Kotobukiya, Good Smile, Intelligent Systems, unfortunately, they are rather subpar. The figures definitely do look like Link and Zelda, even up close, but unfortunately when you set them next to some of my other figures, they definitely look like a downgrade. But overall, I'm pretty happy with them, and where I have them placed right now on my shelves, you really can't tell that they're a little bit cheaper compared to my other scale figures. So I think they fit my space really nicely at the moment, and I'm glad I got them overall. Now, the last things I'll be sharing in today's haul are some fan-made items that are from franchises I really love. The first fan-made item is for a pin that I participated in a Kickstarter for, and I'll have the names of all the fan artists and groups down below for those who may be interested in these. This pin I really like because it's, of course, has my girl Estelle on it. It's representing Trails in the Sky on the PSP. And then I have some fan art for Final Fantasy as well, of probably my favorite Final Fantasy character at the moment. And that's for Zach Fair here. My friend Brandon and his wife Jen sent this over to me for my birthday/Christmas present as well. So thank you so much for this. This is one that I also pre-ordered in anticipation, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And so, as I think I've mentioned in a couple of videos, I got back into Honkai Star Rail as kind of my casual game that I just play for a few minutes every day on my phone. So when I saw this fan project for Honkai Star Rail, where they'll be commissioning a bunch of different artists to come together to create art for a tarot card deck, I was really excited. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It's just great to have all the different characters, I think up to maybe the summer characters from last year. I always find these fan-made tarot decks just a really fun way to have a bunch of character art. And I think all of these just turned out so pretty, especially with all the gold foil and just the layout and designs of all these character cards. So for this fan project, you could get the deck by itself, or you could also get it bundled with some other things. So I ended up getting it bundled with a art book, which just basically has the art that's on the cards in the book as well, some little captions and information about the artist and everything. So I thought that was a nice little collection to have as a companion piece. It also came with this pack of stickers of Pom Pom, the kind of mascot, as well as with this little traveler's satchel, along with an acrylic charm of the Trailblazer MCs and this enamel pen of the female Trailblazer MC. So down to the very last item, which is the largest thing I have to share today, and that is for a Xenoblade fan art project. And so this is the Xenoblade Compendium. And so you have this very large deluxe package. So inside this is the compendium itself, which is just a little art book, as well as all this various goodies inside. So this is an organized fan project of a bunch of different Xenoblade fan artists, and I think this turned out super cool. I really love the compendium, which just has so many different styles of art and different focuses of characters and things. It was really nicely put together, and I do like the compact size, even though this deluxe package is rather large. But with the deluxe edition, you have various stickers, this whole set of Polaroid cards of the characters, which I thought was a really cute touch, as well as this massive postcard set with even more fan art that just is never ending. It seems like there's just so many different illustrations and photos in here. And you also get these 4 acrylic charms that I think turned out really nice. But yeah, that was everything that I had to share in today's haul video. Even though today started off with a rather sad note about stolen packages and lessons learned, I'm really grateful and happy to have received all these items to share with you guys today. And also just share a cohesive update of what I've been up to when it comes to collecting these last few months. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until my next one, bye guys.